Gosh, I should probably get that. Yeah, I did. Hi, Amen. Trying to get some people on this live. Oh well. Let's see. Let me see. So I might want to get my this thing. Wonder if anybody's up right now. Oh, is that who I think it is? Hi, Jay. Hello, hi. I was trying to get a couple of people. What's up? Good evening. Good evening. I did not plan on going live tonight, but I was just listening to a content creator who was live. My God. And she said something. She said a lot of things, honestly. Her energy it just kind of inspired me to go live. I was like, damn, she's got a lot of energy. And I haven't been live. I haven't went live in like a week or so. She got your... Yes, she did. She did. She got my wheels turning. I was like, oh shit. Oh damn. I know, right? No, definitely. Honestly, okay, so she said a lot, man. God, I think she was talking about survival-based people versus people who are not in survival. And immediately I thought about the nervous system. But more importantly, I thought about competition, right? Competition amongst women. But I thought about competition in life, right? Competition in life is required. It's a part of life. But we women, we have not learned how to compete with each other, right? Our version of competition is, I'm going to try and destroy you, right? And if I see you get to a certain level in life and it becomes a mirror, hey Veronica, what's up? I was inspired to go live, so I'm just like, let's just run it. But basically, I'm talking about, hey, I'm talking about, I saw a vid on here about somatic-based healing, nervous system healing in women. Yes, it's absolutely beautiful. And honestly, that's why I wanted to talk about competition, right? Because competition, it does not go out the window. What I have learned is that there are levels to competition. There's like low level, right? Ain't nothing cute about fire. Exactly, nothing cute about it. Absolutely. It's extremely stressful. You will lose everything in that state when you are constantly in that state, right? And you can injure yourself. Like I talked about, I remember talking about that in one of my videos about your nervous system taking the impact when you've consumed too much of like content or anything versus when your body takes the impact, so you're not integrating the information long enough to actually execute intentionally without hurting yourself, right? I think I don't know, I'll probably expand on that more, but I was thinking about competition on different levels, right? Competition at the lowest level is inspired by scarcity, and it is typically kept up by people who are in survival mode versus people who are beyond survival mode, right? They've gotten themselves out, they've rewired their nervous system, and so they no longer need to bring practices that they had to adopt, right? While they were kind of in the trenches, they learn how to kind of leave that where it came from when they ascend beyond that stage. I think about competition at the lowest levels. People who compete at low levels, oddly enough, they're competing to stay at the bottom, right? And so what that means is that if you're in survival mode and people who are not in survival mode, or they're in a more ascended place, maybe they're financially like up there, whatever, if it does not inspire you to lock in and be like, damn, she's doing that, let me get to it, let me get on my shit, right? That is to me a form of competition, but the way women, because of how competition is treated amongst women, right, in this very negative way, even though competition is actually very valuable in the world, right? It pushes innovation, it pushes efficiency, it pushes speed, right? But this is not how we look at it. We look at competition as, oh, you're trying to destroy me. And this is because of the practice amongst women. Because a lot of women are in survival mode, or they're in scarcity. Oh, somebody's going to take my spot, or somebody's going to take that first before I get it, right? It's the need to be the first. And it's just kind of like, there's so many people on this planet, you're not going to be the first. Like, you might be amazing, you might be one of the best, but the first, right? And so being, I think, obsessed with being the first to get to the finish line, and if you don't, then that means that you're less. It's insane. But more importantly, I think something that I see is like, competition does not inspire growth amongst women. If anything, it inspires women, because that's what competition is for, right? When you go into competitive environments, competitive work environments, competitive careers, right? Let's say marketing, whatever. This is supposed to inspire new innovative ideas, right? It's supposed to inspire speed. It's supposed to, this is competition, to me, is very related to inspiration. It is not supposed to inspire you, let me destroy this person. What the hell? Right? To me, that's competition at its lowest level, right? And that is competition coming from scarcity and therefore in survival mode, right? Self-mastery, ascension, all of these things do not require perfect conditions, right? And so you don't need to start when everything is, grand, or you have this much money. That's why money is not an indication, I want to say, of success or a lack of poverty mindset, right? Like, when we saw the video, I don't know if you all saw it, but it was a video and everyone was going insane. A lot of women were going insane about a woman paying $10,000 cash to a dating coach. Everyone lost their mind. Everyone lost their shit, right? They were absolutely coming for this girl. They were like, $10,000 on a dating coach, and he's a man. For some reason that, what... and this became a recycled topic, right? Women were like, she could have bought makeup, she could have bought she could have paid her rent. Just wild shit. I'm like, why would you do that with 10, anyways, but it was kind of wild, but I think you saw my video, Veronica. Uh, and it was, in regards to the fact that, like, what is the difference between a brokey and a person who's not a brokey, right? The difference between the two is determined by where, or rather what, they assign their funds to, right? And so what this means is that it doesn't matter how much money you have. What determines where you will go is the mindset. I could give you $1 million, right? But if you are wired for survival mode and you don't really know, you don't desire anything past the level that you're at, right? You will stay down there. I don't care how much money I give you, right? And so what you're seeing, right? It's a very interesting, really nuanced topic. I kind of love it, honestly. I mean, I could do a whole research paper. Yeah, I'm like, when I think about poverty, right? It's a very touchy subject. It's a very sensitive subject, right? Because, people are like, oh, we didn't choose this, we didn't choose, like, I get it, right? Some of our parents, I get it. But I also understand that if you do not do the work to expand this beyond what is current, you will stay at the bottom, right? And so what you're kind of seeing when it comes to poverty is it's not enough to give financial awareness, right? Like, oh, this is a high yield savings account. That is absolutely surfaced. What you would need to go beyond the reality of where you are is some type of expansion in here, expansion of perspective, right? Multiple perspectives, if you will. And that is typically inspired by some type of transformative kind of work, like maybe with a coach or whatever, or, whatever it is. It's, to me, a desire to see beyond where you are now, right? And in order to do that, typically, if you're seeking, you are going to find people who are beyond. And so they will be the mirrors, or rather the projection of what can be, right? What life could be for you, right? But you got to stay in the room. But I think when I look at poverty, right, as a whole, like, yes, I understand, oh, we didn't know, we didn't get anything from our parents, like, I get that. I think everyone who started from the trenches and built up to like 7 figures and beyond knows, they understand, right? However, when you get to a certain point in life, right, you do have a choice. And what I mean by that is your ignorance, I guess, right? Or just the lack of desire to expand beyond what you see, right? That, to me, is what inspires that crabs in a barrel kind of mentality. It's because you don't want to ascend from where you are. You want to be comfortable in where you are, right? This is technically the permanent poor class, right? See, it's one thing to start from poverty and to ascend beyond it. It's another thing to stay right there. Not because your circumstances or whatever, but because subconsciously you don't want to go beyond because of what's required to go beyond. You got to get uncomfortable, and you have to stay uncomfortable until that becomes your new norm, right? Because what is happening, which I've spoken about many times, is you are breaking a pattern, right? A subconscious pattern by way of creating a new pattern, right? And so this is, I was comfortable too, but being with the matriarch, okay, they will set a fire under your ass. They will set a fire, okay? Yes, that's the thing, like, when they're moving, right, you don't have a choice but to move. You either move or you gotta go, right? They don't, once you start slowing down, right, you become a weight in the room. And so you have to keep moving. It doesn't mean burn yourself out and not look at your limits, but you need to be moving in something. You can't just be like, I'm just not gonna move at all. It's like, you can't be here. Why? Because it's like a chain, an energetic chain in a circle, and that chain, one chain becomes heavy. Okay, this chain is not getting lighter, it's getting heavier. We got to cut this shit off. That is just the logical thing to do. And so, you know, I remember this spiritual teacher, she had made this video for me, and she was just like, you better keep up or you will get ate up. Now, during the time when I heard that, it hurt. It hurt bad. It hurt so bad, because I was at an internship and I wasn't really surviving. I was more so drowning, right? I was in an environment and I was in a career that I was not aligned with, and now I was in one of the most like competitive internships, and I had to like show up and show out, and I wasn't showing up the way that I was expected to, right? And you know, from her video, I was inspired to, because she made like 2 personal videos for it. It was really beautiful, but I was inspired to pivot, not to, you know, oh, I'm just not going to do it. I pivoted. I was like, you know what? I am not aligned with what I'm doing right now. And so it's not that I'm not comfortable. I'm just, well, I'm uncomfortable, right? Because I'm unaligned. And so it's burning me out in a way where my body, my spleen, was getting poisoned. Like it was bad. And so I had to pivot because my body had already told me we're not locked in with this. But I even think about the sentiment behind pivoting, right? People who don't want to pivot, who are in survival mode, or they pivot extremely hard thinking that they'll never have to pivot again. Wrong. I've heard this a lot. I've heard this sentiment kind of projected on Facebook, and I'm like, that's not how that goes. You don't, when you pivot once, right? So that you can keep pivoting. Let me give you like, so if you're not used to challenge, how do you know? Okay. If you're not used to challenge, how do you know if it's just difficult or unaligned? Okay, so one of the things, when something is just difficult, right, it's typically not that you can't do it, right? There's just some type of barrier within yourself. When you're unaligned and you're doing something, it will affect your body. It will affect your internal system. You and your gut, not really your nervous system, yes, your nervous system, but other parts of your body, your immune system, right, will be in battle with one another. Because, yeah, because you're doing something that your body is rejecting, and in order to continue to do it, you would almost have to detach yourself from your vessel completely, right? Which is extremely dangerous when your mind and your body are not connected, when you've separated them, right? In order to keep doing something that your body is like, I'm not with it. I can't do it. I'm not doing this, right? Now, when you're being challenged, what comes up is fear, right? It's your nervous system's kind of like, oh shit, we've never done this before, right? It's a very common feeling because it comes up every time you try something new, right? And your mind or your nervous system is kind of like, holy shit, we've never done this before. I don't have any data. I can't protect you from this. I've never seen you do this. I don't know, like, are we going to fall in our face, right? This is kind of what happens when you're about to do something challenging or you're doing something for the first time. Or let's say you've been doing something for a while and a challenge comes up, right? Depending on what it is, I don't believe you lose inspiration. If anything, that difficulty factor that comes up, you're not going against your immune system, right? You may be going against maybe laziness, maybe complacency, right? Maybe like some type of old pattern or old, what do you call it? Old way of kind of maybe handling your day, right? Oh, hi, Simon. Hello. Hey. That is the difference between being unaligned and challenged, right? When you are unaligned, it is far more dangerous to continue to do a thing, right? Because if you do not heed to the call, your body will do something to force you to heed to the call, right? You don't want to be in that type of battle with your body because it will do something to force you to let go of what is no longer aligned. Versus if you are just going up against a challenge and something that, maybe you enjoy doing or you've been doing or whatever, and it's not killing you, right? You will not have to go against your immune system. You won't have to go against your body's internal systems that keep you protected, right? Exactly. Unless, of course, you're doing something new. And in that case, it's what will probably spike is like your cortisol levels, right? A little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety because you don't have a record of doing this before. But that is the difference. I'm so glad you asked that. That was a great question. I kind of documented all of these times, right? Eventually, when you do this enough, you start to memorize a pattern. There's a pattern in everything. But yeah, that's the difference. I hope did that make sense? Hope that made sense. I honestly, I really love that question. Right? Oh, the pattern, the pattern can be mixed. Okay, good. The pattern can be definitely painful. I have, been in an environment in which I was unaligned. And what it will feel like is a disintegration between the mind and the body, right? So maybe the mind abandons the body for a little while. It just kind of takes a back seat and your body is just kind of doing the motions, the movements, right? Or if it is a, I don't want to say a toxic environment, but if there's pressure added to whatever you're doing that your body is already unaligned with, that's when there's a breaking down of systems in your body, right? That's when it's like your immune system starts attacking parts of you, right, that it's not supposed to be attacking. That's when shit starts breaking down. But right, so that's when you got to kind of ask yourself, like, is what I'm doing worth it? Is this shit worth it? Right? And then you couple that with the fact that, okay, if nobody's coming to save me, if I break down, right, then why am I still doing this? Yeah. Why am I still here? So in that question that you ask yourself, it's a mirror, you and you talking to you, just kind of like, nobody is coming to save me if I end up in a hospital. What the hell am I doing? Right? Those questions will only come up when you are extremely unaligned with what you are doing. Versus a challenge, I mean, there's challenges in everything. There's challenges in living, hell. All the curveballs that get thrown at you throughout the day, and you just kind of learn how to, pivot, dodge, slip. No. But it's not supposed to cause an inner destruction within your body, right? It's not supposed to affect your womb, right? That's how you know you're unaligned, is when you start developing cysts and stuff in the womb, because whatever you're doing is going against your cycle. That's another really big indication. But it's usually the breaking down of internal systems, physical bodily systems that are supposed to keep you, that are supposed to support you, right, in your everyday life. But I think I was thinking about people who are complaining about people with disposable income, right, who can do kind of whatever they want with their income, and what they choose to invest in is expansion beyond where they are, right? I wasn't going to go into this because this is still a rough draft in my head, but I was thinking about this spiritual teacher who I came across on TikTok, and I am learning. I believe I'm going to start going into the etymology of words, because the ways in which we are using it, I believe, is keeping us trapped in this 3D realm, right? Because we're using words that we don't understand. For example, awake, right? I've tried to pivot and realize that most of the problem was all exactly. Yes, subconscious controls 95% of what you do, while the conscious only controls 5%. Insane, right? And so all the beliefs, all of the patterns, all of that is stored underneath the conscious, or the subconscious. It's super cool. But that's, that was something that I had to learn. I mean, not the hard, well, kind of the hard way, when it comes to pivoting. What I realized that I was going against was an old belief system, an old pattern that, my dad and whatnot and have kind of ingrained in me, right? And I'm not going to go into why, but it was really just, I was going against this pattern of like, you never quit even when it doesn't work. What it is I'm going to ride this ship even if it sinks. No. That's suicide. And I gotta say, one of the things that we glorify within our community, within the Black community and whatnot, is sacrifice, self-sacrifice. And we anticipate reward because that's what we believe is equivalent to success. I need to amputate parts of myself to get to success. And it turns out they lied. Right? The system lied, as it consistently does. And one of my mutuals posted about Taraji P. Henson, and this subject actually reminds me of her, and how she, right, and how she's so successful, right? Like, she's up there, and yet she was kind of in tears on an interview. She was breaking down, just saying, I'm tired, right? And she's tired because she had to trade in parts of herself to get to where she is, right? Yeah, I think about, when you are pouring, moving, producing, there's nothing wrong with creating, but when you're pouring without being poured into, when you are pouring from deficit or from lack, that to me is the story of Taraji. Just keep pouring, keep pouring, keep pouring. And it's like she's got the success, she's got the accolades, she's got the claps. But what she sacrificed was inner peace, perhaps even her nervous system. She sacrificed much of the internal to get to this external perception of success or fame or whatever, right? And it's just, that was something that I had to pivot from when I figured out that I was doing something that was unaligned with my makeup and therefore was affecting my nervous system, my body, and just everything. I was going against that kind of notion of, you don't quit. Like, yes, don't quit. Please don't quit. But at the same time, if you see a ship sinking, pivot. Don't be surprised if it crashes, right? And it's like a false sense of self-righteousness, or gosh, what else? I want to say, because I'm like, we are addicted to suffering. There's like a bit of a suffering kink, right? We associate love, if it's not earned through sweat, blood, and tears, if you don't endure pain with me, then you don't love me, right? Exactly. False confidence. Absolutely. We associate pain with we associate pain with love, right? I do this because I love you, so now this is like a condition that you oh, what's up, Danielle? Now this is like a condition that you associate with love, right? It's, hey, what's up? Hey. Wasn't sure if anybody was up. I was like inspired by mutual one of my mutuals, and I was like, shit, let me go live. But anyways, no, we were just talking about the suffering kink. We kind of got into that because we were initially talking about, there's a lot of things we were talking about. I think like a second before, it was really about what is the difference between being unaligned and what was the other one? The difference between being unaligned and facing a challenge, right? So like if you're not used to facing a challenge, how do you know if it's just difficult or unaligned? Yeah, if it's just difficult or unaligned. Great question. Veronica asked, and I was just basically telling her, like, the ways in which you will know that you're unaligned with something is that it will affect systems in your body that are supposed to support you. So like your immune system, right? Your immune system will start to attack you like in order to get you to detach from whatever you're doing. Whereas if it's just a challenge, right, you're not going to face, I want to say, I don't want to say percussions, but you're not going to face, I don't want to say punishment, but kind of like wrath, almost from your own internal system. Challenges can kind of show up in terms of an emotion as like fear or anxiety, right? But if you're getting sick, that's how you know you're unaligned. And you probably need to pivot. And then we were talking about patterns and whatnot, and how those are generated from the subconscious, and in order to break a pattern, you got to create a new one. But there was something else that I was mentioning. Yes, right, the suffering kink. The self-righteousness, that we associate pain with success, right? If you're not amputating parts of yourself, then you're not likely to be successful, because no pain, no gain. Now, pain is a part of life, but there is a bit of a glorification of suffering. And so when we see someone who has not, I want to say suffered as much as we perceive ourselves. Does the effect, I do not know what you're talking about. I do not understand that question. But anyways, when we are talking about the, guys, I just lost my thought. I thought the question was going to be a contribution to this conversation. It wasn't. It was about, I know I was talking about suffering. Okay, yeah. I was talking about the suffering kink. Oh, right. So when some of us see people who have not sacrificed themselves or their bodies to get to a point of success, we grow envious because of the conditions that we attach to success. It's almost like the conditions that we attach to love, right? I do this because I love you. I beat you because I love you. And so what that means, right, as you get older and you become an adult, is that I have to earn love through some form of pain or prolonged suffering, right? And so I think that this applies to success as well. Success, I have to earn this success through prolonged suffering or an amputation of something, right? I thought about your post, Danielle, in regards to Taraji P. Henson, and how despite her success, her fame, her visibility, and whatnot, she is burnt out. She was crying on an interview, right? And she said something like, I want to be poured into. And, immediately I was just kind of like, okay, so she sacrificed parts of herself to get to this image of success, right? It kind of made me think of a point that I brought up earlier, which was competition. So competition on low levels versus competition on high levels, right? It's probably like, how are you tying that? But basically, at the lowest levels, competition is scarcity, right? I'm the only one who can be at the top. If you're at the top, that means I can't be at the top. So I got to knock your ass down so I can get to the top. That is at the lowest scarcity survival mode levels. And then there's higher levels. Competition that inspires growth, right? That's typically what competition is for. It's to inspire you to do better, to go faster. Her soul is suppressed to be seen, but she desires to be. Yes, her soul is suppressed to be seen, but she desires to be her whole self. And I just think to myself, like, what's so interesting is no one is going to give you permission, I want to say, to be your whole self. Like, you have to, especially this world, capitalistic or whatever, the systems, like the systems here in this Western hemisphere does not honor the soul. It doesn't give a damn about the soul. Your soul is a battery, right? That can be used to build somebody else's future, empire, right? You are a means to an end, an energy source to be, exactly, right? And so, her desire to be her whole self, I feel it kind of hurt when I saw that, because I remember that interview. She sacrificed so much of herself, right? And she just kept showing up despite being at, like, not low levels, but what I mean is being depleted, right? She kept showing up and whatnot. And so now her body is like, I can't do this. Her energetic output reserves, right? Or energy reserves are like, I have nothing else to give. This world is not going to give women permission to be their whole self. It's so funny that you said that. She desires to be her whole self, because immediately it made me think about the polarization of the feminine online. I know I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent, but it's okay. It made me think about the polarization of the feminine, but she showed up as her performer, not her being, and what we saw the soul. Yeah. Yep. And so it's crazy, but and I don't think I'm saying anything harsh, but what I see with Taraji, because she showed up as her performer and, essentially not her whole self, is she abandoned herself, right? In order to keep up with what she believed she needed to keep, whatever image that she felt like she had to keep up with, she had to essentially keep abandoning herself. Yeah. And I see women do this in a lot of aspects, right? Like we saw Taraji P. Henson do this in she abandoned herself in her career, right? Women do this in relationships, right? That whole trend on TikTok of women being like, oh, I wanted to date, but then I thought about the last time I dated and they look absolutely insane. And what we're seeing is women abandoning themselves to get whatever perceived reward that they have in their mind, right? Love, validation, being seen as their whole selves. It's just like, it's true, people are going to project on you based on where they are, whatever limited background, perspective, perception that they have of their own world. But it also doesn't help to show up as anything other than yourself, a performer, half of yourself, right? Avoid, like, and then to expect reward for showing up as anything other than yourself. If anything, you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded to keep showing up as who you are not, right? You will be encouraged to keep showing up as that. It's terrible because we set ourselves up. I'm going to show up as half of myself, or I'm going to show up as the performer. And then you get rewarded for being the performer, and now you got to keep doing it. Because if you mess around and you pivot into being your whole self, they may drop you, right? And so this is, I don't want to say we've all learned this, but in some ways, I think most of us have learned this, right? We've maybe chosen a career, chosen a partner, chosen a path, whatever, that we perceived was what we're supposed to do according to whatever society says that women should be doing at this age, at this time, whatever. You follow the program, you realize this is not aligned with me. This is not really this does not honor my design, right? And then you have a choice. Do I honor my design and risk being on my own, or do I keep trying to fit myself into a box or into a shape that just doesn't fit me so that I don't have to stand on my own, right? Because women are community based, what happens when you pivot and you honor your design, you honor your whole self, is you are typically isolated from the community, right? And this is because, I want to say, because most women operate in tethers, right? So nobody is their whole self. Everyone is kind of, what do you call it? Not emanating, maybe. Emanating, copying. Everyone is kind of trying to be versions of each other, if that makes sense. That's the difference between a community and a cult, right? Communities are based on people who they're all coming with their own strengths, right? And these strengths that everyone is coming with, individual strengths, is by way of their own study of themselves, right? Whereas in amongst women, we do not really study ourselves, we study each other, right? We study the most successful person in the room and then try and become them, right? So that we can reap the same benefits that they have rather than becoming ourselves. We are here to become ourselves, right? I don't want to say it's difficult to be yourself or to become yourself or to learn how to be yourself in this world, but I believe in a collective of women where insecurity and low self-esteem and self-loathing is the culture, it is radical behavior, right? It's not difficult, but you will face opposition, right? Because what you are saying is, I am good enough as myself. I don't need to be anybody other than myself to be successful. That is radical, and it kind of fucks with women. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, which is insane to me. But this is kind of what we're working with. This is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing on social media, right? When I think about the feminine cannibalizing itself, right? And I mentioned this in the book club, the feminine eating itself in order to sustain itself. This is truly because when you are not here to be yourself, right? But instead you're here to emulate someone else in an effort to gain the success that they have. The envy, the jealousy that you see amongst women, and I'm talking about, because the thing about jealousy is it's natural, but when you don't know how to transmute it, it becomes extremely destructive, right? Anyways, but what we are seeing in regards to, you know, women cannibalizing each other, like it makes sense as to why women are, I don't want to say eating each other, but yes, right, in order to sustain itself, because it's like when you're not studying yourself and you're studying someone else to become them, and you do not reap the same benefits that they are reaping, right, because you're not them, there will be an envy there, right? You will have this desire to destroy them, because why am I doing everything that you're doing and yet I'm still not reaping the same benefits? You're going to hate the shit out of them, not because they deserve hatred, but because this is how it goes, right? This is the cycle. You emulate someone in an effort to align yourself with their earned success, right? To try and get their earned success, even though you didn't earn it. And you don't get it, and yet you've contorted yourself to be everything else but you. You essentially scammed yourself, right? You didn't gain anything by becoming other than yourself, right? You just became less you. But this is what we do in an effort to reap the benefits that somebody that is in line with someone else's destiny, right? We want their destiny. I remember hearing this BS about destiny swapping. It's not possible. You can't do that. That's very, I don't, we make shit up online. It's very odd to me. There is no such thing. And the reason why I say that there is no such thing is because you cannot be anyone else but you. People are going to see, when you are being someone else. For example, when you think about an influential, let's say, creator or celebrity or whatever, and you try and channel their energy into your content, if someone runs across it and they feel that energy in your content, you are going to catch the same hell that they would. maybe even harsher, because what you're channeling is not you. And what you are incurring or bringing to yourself is everything that comes with them without being them, right? So you cannot swap destinies, because you cannot handle what is for someone else's energy, frequency, cadence, way of being. But women try to do that, and they end up biting themselves in the ass for doing it, right? They end up I want to say, incurring a weight, or carrying a weight that's not theirs, right? It's not yours to carry. This is not your fire to handle. This is somebody else's. But you don't want to be yourself. And so you're going to keep getting, I don't want to say you're going to keep getting punished for it, because I don't like that word. I just don't like it. But you're essentially going to keep catching hell, right? Because you don't want to study you. You want to study everybody else but you. I was going to make a post actually on Facebook, and I technically scheduled it for Friday, and I was kind of unsure about it, but excuse me, it was about comparison, and it being so common amongst women, comparison versus competition, the difference between the two. We compare timelines. We compare a lot. And I believe we are addicted to not feeling enough or whole within our own bodies. It's like we like to feel unworthy, right? I don't know what that is, this addiction to comparison, but I do know that it starts young. If you've ever heard a mother say to their child, why can't you be more like this person? Why can't you be more like him? Or why can't you be more like her? Why can't you be more like your friend? I've heard of it. That comparison starts very young, because mothers, not all, right? But the ones that I have encountered, growing up or whatever, extremely insecure. And what they give to their daughters is the same thing, right? They compare, you compare. Now, I understand comparison it can be natural in some cases, but when competition and confidence is not a norm or a practice when it comes to, let's say, the women in your family, or just the women in your community in general, you can't sustain yourself. You're not stable around people who are competitive and who are confident in themselves, right? You kind of unravel, because you don't know how to be competitive without being destructive. And you don't know how to be confident, because you're always comparing yourself. You were never good enough in your family. You were never good enough to the women in your family, and you're not good enough to yourself. So you're always comparing. I see it a lot. I see it on social media too. And it's interesting. I'm like, what is that? Why do we do that? I know why we do that. I believe, well, I think it's a function in some cases. I cannot speak for all. I have to say some. In some cases of low self-esteem. And in others, sometimes I just think it's a bit tone deaf. Like, I think when the older generation is kind of like, man, they're kind of looking at, Gen Z's like, you guys are just like, whoa, right? I think to myself, like, Gen Z's, we don't have time. Time has collapsed, right? And so what you see are 19 year olds and up, 23, 24, 20, that genius is because wisdom was extracted, right? Like we have a completely different stimulus in this kind of group where we have to adapt quickly. Gen Z, it's like, I don't feel like Gen Z had a choice in kind of waiting until their 30s to like figure it out. It's like, no, you got to figure it out now. Right? And so I think that the wisdom amongst Gen Z is because it's not because we're just naturally gifted. I think from what I see as a Gen Z myself, we did not have a choice. It was like, get it or get left, right? And we was like, oh, hell no. And we had to get it. Whatever time that we had, it was used up by the generation before us, if that makes sense. But I just, that's one kind of instance of comparison. I'm not offended by it. Like, I get it. I just kind of, sometimes I wonder if millennials know that when it comes to Gen Z just being like, whoa, right? Like, I'm like, when I see Gen Z, I see a generation that did not have a choice but to level up, right? In wisdom and strategy. And, I see a generation that's like, we got to catch up or we're going to get eaten up. We don't have a choice, right? I see a generation that refuses to die, right? That's what I see. And so it is admirable, and I'm, grateful to be a part of this generation. It's an interesting time. But we, I think if we had time, we would be cruising. Like, I don't think this level of, I don't know, I guess brilliance or whatever, we would not be so aggressive with it, especially in leadership and, and putting ourselves out there and whatnot. But times are changing. The market is looking kind of interesting. Trump is in office, right? A lot of things are happening. And so with all of these things happening, it forces you to adapt quickly, evolve quickly, right? So that you don't get crushed under the weight of change. So you got to pivot with it. But yeah, I was thinking about comparison a lot, and I was thinking about the levels of competition as well. And at the very bottom is where comparison and scarcity and the crabs in a barrel kind of live at. Where at the top, competition is actually used to inspire greater change, quicker change, right? More innovation. That's why it's used in competitive career choices like marketing, right? Or corporate companies and whatnot, right? Competition is a tool used to help people evolve or transform or accelerate faster. But the people at the bottom, right? When I think about the permanent poor class, it's not the permanent poor class because of your funds. It's the permanent poor class because they don't want to go beyond where they are, right? They want to be comfortable where they are, so you are permanently down there. I feel like I've gone on so many points here. But these are things that have just been kind of coming to mind. Comparison, competition. Like, competition is not, thank you. Competition at its highest points, which is supposed to inspire growth, change, speed, efficiency, right? It's not glorified at all. It's not even acknowledged, which is, well, honestly, I think it's fine. it does need to be normalized, but it's not common, and it is a function of a level of ascension, right? Ascension is not our natural state, right? To be ascended. Well, there's no, let me not say to be ascended. There is no end point, right? There's no kind of like, okay, this is the end. I'm here, I'm at the mountaintop, and now I stop. You do it until you die, right? And so there's no kind of like end goal with this thing, but competition at the highest level, right, which is supposed to inspire, is a function of ascending beyond survival mode, beyond scarcity, right? This is kind of what I see. It kind of made me think of people going insane about the $10,000 investment in the dating coach, or Katy Perry going to space. It makes me think of, they're mad not at the money, but they're mad at what they're able to do with said money. Oh no. Oh guys, it's gonna end my live. Okay, never mind. It's fine. I don't know why. Maybe, okay, so do lives end when you don't get enough likes or something? No, I'm not Filipino. Do I look Filipino? Let me not say that. No, I'm not. Anyways, with that in mind, right, damn, what was I? Oh, right. I was, okay, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about how, god damn, people aren't mad at the money that they have. They're mad at what they're able to do with said money, right? What they assign their funds to, right? Which is really an expansion. People at the bottom do not want expansion. So when I think about the permanent poor class, people don't feel bad for people at the bottom, because typically people at the bottom do not want to go beyond where they are. That's really the bottom line. Like, people at the bottom think that people at the top, or people with more money, are like elites or whatever the hell. And I'm like, it appears that the difference between you two is not money, is choices, is what they did with their money. That's why they're in rooms that you're not in, right? Is because they use said money or said funds to invest in this or expansion beyond their current reality so that they can go further in life. You used it to stay not only where you are, but to stay comfortable in where you are. So it's not unfair, right? So God, I feel like I've gone on so many tangents, guys. But I really just wanted to go live because I was inspired to go live after hearing a mutual's live, and she was talking about basically, people in survival mode versus people who are beyond that, right? And it just kind of, it rewired something in my brain, and I was like, oh, people at the bottom will remain at the bottom, not because they can't do better for themselves, but because they choose not to. It really does boil down to choice, because when you are not willing to go beyond your comfort level, or you cannot see a world beyond your reality, and when you are around people who are in positions where they are beyond your reality, which is supposed to inspire you to go beyond where you are, instead you get mad, you get jealous, you throw rocks, and you burn the bridge. And so you again remain at the bottom, because the rope that is supposed to pull you up, which are projections, mirrors of where you could be, you keep setting matches to them, right? So I just was doing these kind of mappings in my brain and was like, I think I'm just gonna go live and explain what's going on. But honestly, damn, I don't know, what time did I get on here? I don't know, like 9 something. It's like 10:48. I don't think I've ever gone live on a Wednesday evening. But like I said, I was inspired because another creator did it, and her live kind of made me, it got the wheels turning, and I was like, click. But yeah, thank you all for coming to my live. My book is still up, of course. It's on my website if you're interested in that. But I am going to call it a night. I was really just inspired, and I wanted to get on live because I haven't been on live in over a week. So, yeah, that was all, guys. I am going to probably get some things ready and get ready for bed because I have to wake up in the morning. But yeah, thank you. Also, Veronica, I am so excited and happy for you. She got my book, and she's loving my book. I'm excited. I'm wondering, yeah, I know, right? What chapter are you on right now? I know it's like it's not a I'm studying. Oh, I love it. I've gotten a lot. I've gotten some DMs recently, and they're like, "Yo, this is a good book." So what I'm going to do is upload this thing on Amazon because the first time I tried to upload it, I'm on dense. Oh yes. Let's go. Okay, so okay, I think I should probably go live more on the different chapters in my book so that we can, go over it together. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good, Danielle. Really, really. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Honestly, I'm like, shit, I might reread my own book because it is that good. And just hearing people's reviews, they're like, this is going to be a part of my shadow work. I'm like, no, right? No, it's so inspiring. I can't wait to come out with the second book. Super inspired to do that. And people who read my newsletter, I'm making a course based off of the newsletter, which is on the nervous system. So my stuff almost died. A lot is coming out. Got to get that together. I'm also graduating this semester. It's a lot going on, being compiled in like a very small amount of time. But I'm so happy. I'm going to upload this thing on Amazon so that more people, thank you, so that more people can have access to it. And, you guys can, get the hard copy. Because why not? It's just when I tried at first, it looked like my words were spilling off the page. So I've got to edit it so that it looks nice in the book. So yeah, until further notice, yeah, don't worry, you guys will get some emails with updates from me. So it's super late. I'm finally gonna go. Thank you guys for coming to my live. My book is still up. If you're interested, DM me. I'll just send the link. And yeah, good night, everyone.